Good afternoon and thank you for joining Modern Infrastructure for our What's New in Civil and InfraWorks. My name is Salome Fourie. I'm one of the account managers for Civil Infrastructure team. I've been part of the Modern team for the last 13 years. And I would like to introduce our superstar, Jacques Pieterse. He is our application engineer for civil and structure and will be presenting today. The presentation will be recorded and will be sent through to you afterwards. You are welcome to add your questions in the Q&A or chat group. Jacques will answer all the questions after the presentation. And we will also have the opportunity, if you want to ask a question, you can just click on the raise hand button and then we will give you the opportunity to ask your question. So I'm going to give it over to Jacques and he will do the presentation for you.
Well, good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to What's New for Civil 3D and InfraWorks. I'm going to be your host for this session. My name is Jacques Pieterse. I'm a specialist in infrastructure department here at Modern. And today we're going to look at what's new for Civil 3D and InfraWorks. So start off from the batch, let's go to AutoCAD Civil 3D 2021. So there are a little bit of a main overview, what has been changed inside of Civil 3D. So the first element is Civil 3D and InfraWorks bridge interoperability when it comes to bridge design. Then we've got a new nice little player, which is called Dynamo Player for Civil 3D, as well as for the connector for ArcGIS. So to look in depth in exactly what each of these components are, we can go to the next slide and I can show you exactly. So for Civil 3D and the InfraWorks bridge interoperability, we have now the ability to do Civil 3D can receive bridge information that has been created in InfraWorks, and that bridge data can be easily updated if changes have been made to InfraWorks bridge model. So basically generating any type of design inside of InfraWorks can be sent to Civil 3D now. Now this does allow for creation of Civil 3D roads, the corridor just before the bridge, or you can actually include the entire bridge to be used in the view sheet. So to give a live demonstration, we can jump to InfraWorks. So starting off in InfraWorks, we can actually go and navigate to an existing bridge. Now this should be very familiar type of bridge. It's for Enigins bridge I did a few months back with our events. So basically what I want to do with this bridge is I want to send it to Civil 3D. So it's very easy. You simply select the bridge you're interested in, and any component, right-clicking, it gives you allowed to say publish the civil structure. It says create a new structure, or you can actually do modifications and update an existing structure as well. Those are the key new features inside of InfraWorks to Civil 3D. Now it does going to ask you to specify a location where to save this file. So the new file creation is an actual IMX file format. So you need to go and specify the duration where you want to place it and give it a proper name. It will also create a backup proposal inside of InfraWorks if something happens to your model. Then it's very simply to say to create, and it will publish your civil structure directly to Civil 3D. Now it's going to bring in pretty much everything from InfraWorks regarding alignments, profiles, assemblies, corridors, the actual bridge itself, and all of its components. So depending on the size of the bridge that you're designing in InfraWorks, it can take about a few times. But as soon as you've done that, it has exported that bridge file format for IMX, and I can simply go and navigate to Civil 3D. So starting off in Civil 3D, I can have a blank new drawing. So it's full of nothingness. So the next step is to actually start importing that file format. So if I go to my InfraWorks tab inside of Civil 3D ribbon, I can go to Open InfraWorks Models, and I can go and navigate to exactly that location I'm interested in my bridge. Now I can navigate to that bridge file. It's under Autodesk Infrastructure Models, Civil Data, and there is my bridge, the backup, and the actual bridge IMX file. Selecting the IMX file and simply saying Open. Now it does pick up the coordinate systems I set up in InfraWorks. I could have set it up in this drawing as well, or I can say set the coordinate systems, and I can just specify if I want to use the current models, one from InfraWorks, or I can manually change them accordingly. So I'm just going to use the one from InfraWorks because it was actually correct. So it sets up the coordinate systems. Now, this tool actually allows you to specify certain requirements. So if I can specify a refined selection set, I can actually dictate exactly what needs to be brought into my Civil 3D. So there are the existing surfaces, the component road, which is 250, and the bridge itself. So that's all of the components you can go and cycle. It's very useful if you've got a lot of bridges. So all of that, I can simply say, open the model, and it will load all of that information. So it will import, like I mentioned, the alignments, as well as the profile, the corridor, the surface, and of course, the entire bridge. So as you can see, it does bring in the entire bridge. And if I just go to my isometric view in Civil 3D, and if I try to navigate a bit around in 3D, you can see it brings in the full extent of that entire bridge in 3D. So this is very unique. And what's very nice about these things is that you can do changes to them. So as you can see, it is an actual part of your model. It's a 3D object. So just to prove that, I can even go and select an object. If I select, for example, one of my abutments, and I go to my properties tab on the side, it actually picks it up as a civil bridge abutment and all its attributes as well. Now, and added on into the Civil 3D, you'll find under the prospector, there's a new little tab. It's called Bridges. And inside of this bridge, it tells you exactly all of your components for that bridge. So what you can do is you can actually go and select elements from this selection as well. So if you do go select, for example, it does bring in the deck, the foundation, the girders, the bearings on those pile caps as well, and the pier itself, which is the only one in this current situation, and of course the two abutments. So you have got full control in selecting elements of the bridge by simply either selecting one of them or selecting all of them, and simply go right click and say select, and you can see all of them highlight. So you've got full control when selecting elements of your bridge. If I jump to my top view and say, for example, this is now beautiful, but I want to see the actual long section design. So if I go to profile, I can say create surface profile, and all of that data is already stored inside of Civil 3D. It's coming from InfraWorks. So all I need to do is I just need to draw the profile view. So I'm going to say draw in profile view. And as soon as I do that, I'm going to go select whichever styles you're going to use. So I'm just going to run through this. Next, next, perfect. Let's just check back. Okay, that's perfect. Wonderful. That's the band. And I can say create profile view. So as soon as I do that, I can select the location, and it brings in that entire long section directly with the correct data for my bridge design. So if I want to project these elements, the bridge elements, I can simply select the profile view and say project objects to the profile view. That's how simple it really is. So either I can go select in screen how I want all of these bridge elements. So what you can do is you can actually go and highlight everything. You could have also done exactly the same using the selection box, which I previously showed. So I can do that, and it will ask me to specify yet again styles. So of course, Civil 3D loves its styles, so I can specify unique styles for each of the elements. For example, certain colors, certain layers, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to keep it at standard for now. And you'll see it brings in the actual bridge, which I can go and manipulate. Now it does look a little bit funny because the vertical exaggeration is not according to what it's supposed to be. So to fix that, I can go to my profile view sections, and inside of my profile view sections, I can navigate to that style, and I can go and say edit current selection. So if I do say edit current selection, I can go and specify the vertical exaggeration needs to be 1, and I can simply say apply and OK. And OK again. There we go. And OK. As soon as I do that, you see the actual long section adjusts. Now it looks in more retrospect. Now, what can you do with this information? Well, you can still go add spot elevations to this. You can add slope changes. It even adds its own tags for each element, which you can go and move this label or adjust the label and do whatever type of information you want inside of the system. Now, this is very nice. if you're coming from InfraWorks. But what happens if you do a change? If I want to change an element on my bridge, or I want to change the profile view or the profile design, or even the alignment, how is Civil 3D and InfraWorks going to contribute all of those details? So if I jump back to InfraWorks and say, for example, I decided I'm going to switch one of my components. So you could have actually done the horizontal alignment or the profile design and do changes to them or individual parts. You can even change the assembly. It will also update inside of Civil 3D. So if I do go and change any of the peers, for example, I've made it a modification one in Inventor. So I did a customized Inventor peer and I just swap it out inside of my InfraWorks model. As soon as I do that, you see the change has been made to this model. Now this is my customized peer, and I want this information to reflect inside of my Civil 3D. So as you can see, we're simply to do it, we simply have to go select just the bridge again, and it opens up the bridge command. And if I right click again, there is an option where I can say publish civil structure to update the existing. So it brings you back to this dialog box. It will create an update or a proposal yet again for us, a backup inside of InfraWorks. But that's how simple it really is. You simply go update, and then you say update existing, and it will refresh. So yet again, just to note, it depends on how complex these things are. It can take about like a few minutes to do this, just to generate all of that information. But that's how simply it really is. As soon as I do that, I can jump back to Civil 3D. Now it looks very similar to an XREF. So here at the right-hand corner, you'll get a reference data change has been made for the InfraWorks. So as soon as I do that, you could actually also go to your prospector and say reload, but you can also use this opportunity to see which properties has been changed and who has changed them and at what time. So it does tell you, for example, the bridge has been changed at that time, and if the guy actually added more notes, they can do that. So if I do say reload, it basically reloads all of the documents inside of my Civil 3D. Now, as soon as I say close, and let's zoom closely into this profile view, you see that changes have been made. So like I mentioned, once again, anything that you change inside of InfraWorks can be updated in Civil 3D. The profile itself, or even the alignment, even the section, and each component of the bridge can be changed. So just to show you the bit different type of view, if I do navigate into 3D, and let's go inspect that newly created pier. So as you can see, it fully updates in 3D as well, and that's an actual element. So it's a very unique, nice tool in Civil 3D I personally love, especially when you're doing collaboration between Civil 3D and InfraWorks. So as you can see, if I do change the style to make it look more realistic, it's actually very accurate. So that's a key feature for the InfraWorks and Civil 3D. Then we've got some even more exciting elements. The next up is the Dynamo Player. Now, for those who don't know, Dynamo is an actual visual graphic script runner system. So what this actually does is the Dynamo Run script tool has been replaced by Dynamo Player. So basically, Dynamo is normally used to do continuous elements and reduce the time of creating them. For example, if you've got, say, for example, lightweights or something, or you want to do grading and want to adjust all of them. Now, Dynamo comes in handy. That actually runs scripts for you and then automates your design. So in this case, the newly added on is the Dynamo Player. And this tool also lists the user inputs required for the given script. So it provides users with the script editing access point and provides reviews on whether the script is running successfully or with errors. So that's a new little add-on inside to give you an actual demonstration. Oh no, there it falls. Okay, cool. So if I go to my actual video inside of Civil 3D, once again, just to give you an idea, it is now installed automatically with the new version. If I go to my management tab, there is an option to say Dynamo Player. So let's go select Dynamo Player, and you get this nice little Dynamo Player tab. Now, by default, Civil 3D has default ones in ready, but you can customize your own ones and simply run them in this dialog box. You can also go and navigate to the location where you save your scripts, your Dynamo scripts. And even like I mentioned, the default ones actually also has its location by selecting this icon. So if you're running a script and you want to refresh it to reuse it, you simply hit the refresh button and it will do so. So to just do a quick simulation, I'm going to do the add annotation along alignment. If I run this thing, you see it does add that little annotation and it gives me a warning, run complete with errors. But the error is not really that much. It actually did what it's supposed to do. It added an annotation along alignment. So this one does not allow for additional settings. But what you can do is you can just run these type of scripts, or there's something else, the values. So if you run a script that has preset values, now this one does not have any, like I mentioned, you can actually go and do a proper one. So I'm going to use the one that I written. So if I go to my navigation, there is a custom. So if I say custom inside and I say, okay, this is my custom one, create tree along alignment. Now, this could actually be renamed any element 3D object actually. So if I do select the values option, it asks me for my parameters, which I created. One is the name of the alignment, the interval between blocks, as well as which block names to add. So I want to add lights, for example. So I've already have this block inside of my Civil 3D. And what I can do is I can go and specify my road's name. So this road's name is actually 250. And the intervals, how far you want those lights to be. I want to say 50 apart spacing, and on which side, the offset to the left or offset to the right. So you can actually design for both by typing in those values. And I also wanted to put it on its own layer and which block to use. Now, after all that has been done, you just run the script and Bob's your uncle. There you go. I've got all 3D elements inside along my corridor generated without me inputting anything by hand. So if I want to refresh the system, you can see it refreshes the system backwards, and I can re-import the values, for example, for a different type. You can also select the edit button. It will open up the Dynamo script itself. It's the same icon. If I go back, there's also another edit option. If I say edit in Dynamo, now what this will do is it will actually open up Dynamo itself, and you can literally go and edit your scripts and modify and see exactly how they work. So that's a very cool feature now with Civil 3D for Dynamo. And then some serious stuff. We've got Connector for ArcGIS. So we can now import data directly from ArcGIS online. The online data source using the ArcGIS Connector. During this process, you can identify which objects are available to import and how those objects should appear in Civil 3D by assigning a type of feature to each object. So something very interesting to note, a live link for ArcGIS data is stored so that if the data is updated in the ArcGIS online, it will be updated in your Civil 3D files because it's directly linked to the cloud. So if you are interested in more of this ArcGIS online, we are not resellers for them, but that's why I've added this link, which you can actually go and have a look. So we will also add this to the chat, and then you guys can freely go look at it on your own time. But basically what we are going to try to achieve is, say for example, I am starting a new project and I want to grab existing services from the ArcGIS. So to do that, I need to go to Insert tab, and under my ribbon there's a connector to ArcGIS. So I can actually go and open it up. It opens up my Autodesk connector for ArcGIS. So it looks very similar to InfraWorks, but it's more of a cloud-based system. So anybody and anywhere in the world can publish their designs, being it roads, stormwater, sewer, or any type of structures. You can actually go put in this ArcGIS. Now you can actually go and select the region of interest. So if you do specify, for example, your interest is in this area, it will load all of that information. You can also specify for the entire view or import it, as well as searching for the specific location. So that's a very nifty tool. Then we have got an option for public information. So basically, if you've got information you've published by public, by my content, by my groups, or even for my organization. So if you've got your own organization hub inside of the ArcGIS, it will actually bring in all of that data. So then you and your colleagues can work simultaneously. Now, if I do go to public, for example, it brings in all of the information for the public, meaning anybody in the world that has an account can publish elements to this. So for example, if I want to search storm sewer designs in this specific area, I can go and navigate and see what other engineers actually brought into this. Now I'm interested in this July storm and sewer analysis, so I can see there are structures and pipes. So depending on which one you want, you can actually go define them as elements. So there is an option that says select a feature type, which you can actually go and select what type of element this is. So for example, there are opportunities to go select as COGO points or even as the actual structure. Now in this case, I don't want to use COGO points, but in this case, I want to use actual structures because my manuals is structures. The pipes itself, you can see there are gravity pipes as well as alignments, COGO points, and feature lines. So you have full control in specifying how this element should be appearing inside of Civil 3D. You can also deselect them from here, as well as if you want to preview what's going to be brought in before sending it to Civil 3D. If I select the eye icon, you can see it illustrates exactly what's going to be brought in. So by using these tools, you can go pre-inspect exactly what you want and simply say add to my design project. Now, as soon as I do that, it's going to bring in that information. So as soon as it brings it in, I've got this option to specify what type of schema mapping. So by default, it's going to pick up the information the previous engineer have added to the ArcGIS. So this could be depending on what type of unit it is, what type of structural element it is, what type of manhole it could be, what type of pipe sizing, and so on and so forth. Now, what you can do in your company is if you've got a standard, you can actually create one for yourself. So for example, you can set up specific part types you want to bring in as just illustration, because technically all you're really interested is in the parts to bring in the information so they are exactly positioned on the right location, as well as the internal inlets for them as well. So what you can do is you can go and specify whatever type you want at the end of the day. So you can actually go and specify if you want to go and change any of these part sizes, and you can actually go and specify the changes inside to save them for the gravity pipes as well. So it's very simple. You can actually go specify between these two tabs to exactly which one is the structure and which one is the gravity pipes itself. And like I mentioned, you can save this as well and do a lot of edits at the end of the day. So there are a lot of few functionalities. You can also go and specify what type this should be. Should it be an inlet outlet structure? Should it be a junction? The shape of the structure, or the size of the inner diameter of your manhole or junction box, as well as you can even add a part family name to this. So if you want to define it as a certain part family name, you can actually do so. As well as for value mapping, if you've got specific values, you can actually go and search for those values. So normally, depending on who has included these elements inside of ArcGIS, you can actually go and specify if this is an inlet or an outfall, and say, for example, the junction structures is actually manholes. So it depends on what the guys are setting up inside of ArcGIS. And like I said, these information you can pre-inspect in the ArcGIS itself. So as soon as you go set up those settings, you can do that for the pipes. Again, you can save all of these details and clarify your source priority and save it for your company. And you can reopen it as well as a template. So you don't need to redo this every single time you bring in elements. Even, for example, if you have roads, if you want your road styles to be imported, you change the settings how those road styles should be imported instead of using the current one. The design will still be the same, but it will import with your new styles. So after all of that settings, I can simply say okay, and it will bring in the ArcGIS data. Now this does take a bit of time, I'm not gonna lie. So sometimes it does take, depending on the size of information you're bringing in. Now, as I go to my properties tab, there is now a network, the ArcGIS network, and there are my pipes and structures. So it's now been added into my Civil 3D. So you can literally go and select a lot of elements inside of this. As you can see, the structures have been brought in, the pipes has also been brought in. You can do modifications and republish them if you want to. So just to show you, if I go to the one pipe's properties, there is an option if I go to parts properties, and it will bring in all of those information. The invert levels, if there's invert levels associated to them, and so on and so forth. You can also go and still add your rule styles to these things. You can override them and republish them, and so on and so forth. So you've got full control, even for the structures. The structures works exactly the same. If I go to the structural properties, I can simply go select the structure, and I go to the part properties tab, and I can go and specify more elements into this. And also defining the surface in this case. So that's a nice little nifty tool to collaborate with the ArcGIS system. Like I said, you can bring in more than just pipes. You can actually bring in, also if you've got a bridge, you will publish your bridge to ArcGIS with its alignment and its corridor, and it will bring it into Civil 3D. So it's basically connecting the real world aspect outside to the one in your company. So you don't need to do that irritating things of going to site, digging a little hole just to find where the invert level of a sewer pipe is. I always love doing that. So without further ado, that's for Civil 3D. Now we're getting to the real juicy stuff. InfraWorks 2021. I hope you guys are ready. So the main overview, what we have added in InfraWorks is now, of course, the corridor geometry import from Civil 3D. So if I'm doing the other way around, let's say, for example, I'm starting a road design inside of Civil 3D, and I want to bring it in to InfraWorks to get my alignment for my bridge design. Very nice. So we can actually go and unify the new DWG and IMX import. Now this is the new feature, as well as there are some small little changes to the high DPI support. So to get more in depth, we've got the following. So for the corridor geometry import for Civil 3D and the unified DWG and IMX import, they have enhanced the import of IMX data to improve the flow of data between Civil 3D and InfraWorks, so that you can use the full Civil 3D corridor geometry in your InfraWorks project. It leads to the modern workflow of the civils, or even for the entire civil structures. So there is now a new workflow for how to import your Civil 3D objects, your InfraWorks, and your Revit models. So on the side, you can see I've put up the civil structural workflow. We will actually add it to the chat. So you are more than welcome to go have a look. For each of these elements, it has a go-to guide, how to do each step along the way and how bringing in your bridge. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I do have to mention this is just one workflow. You can actually go and search for more different types, but this is now the newest thing since sliced bread on toast. So that's very nice. Then there is one tiny little change to the DIP support. So like I mentioned, all of the icons and the toolbars has restyled to support high DPI scaling, and it's now new font colors. So it's a tiny little change, but it's worth it. So to give you a live demonstration, we'll start off in Civil 3D. So inside of Civil 3D, I've got an existing road, which has already been built. The actual corridor has been built, and I've got different assemblies for this road. Now, if I do go select the corridor, just to show you, and I go to my corridor properties, and you might have noticed this is an actual road. It has a horizontal, vertical alignment, as well as 3 different assemblies. And yes, you did see right, 3 different assemblies. It's going to bring in your assemblies to InfraWorks. So starting in InfraWorks again, I've just got a basic model, a master type. So it just brings in my elevation in my imagery. Now I can just use my data sources. Inside of my data sources, I can go and import elements from Autodesk Civil 3D DWG or the IMX. So it depends on which one you choose. Now, in this case, I did DWG. I did not export it in Civil 3D to IMX, but you can. So if I go navigate to my drawing, I go to my bridge workflow design. This is my starting position for the bridge. Now, like I mentioned, it is going to bring in everything. And when I mean everything, I mean everything. It's elevations is going to bring it in, the horizontal alignment, the profile design, the assembly, the corridor, the surface of that corridor, and even the existing surfaces. Even if I had piping will also be brought in this similar manner. So you can actually go and specify if you want for piping. Now, of course, as you see, it brings in all of those elements. So you can select the ones you want to add to your model or deselect them by selecting the selection box. So what you can do is, I'm going to rerun all of them. So I'm going to say OK. And it's going to import basically all of that information. Now you can configure all of them at the same time if you want to. Or if you select just one, for example, the roads, I'm interested, and I say configure. Now, this is a new little add-on, what I like about InfraWorks. If I go, you can have the ability to set up a style if you want to, but if you want to grab that existing corridor, as you see, we can now and go define if you want to bring it in as a component road or a corridor component road. If I change it to a component road, we can actually go and change the mapping settings. And what does this basically mean? The mapping settings reads up all of your assemblies in Civil 3D and gives you the ability to add material styles to make it realistic, and it will bring in all of that information. So this is a very nifty tool they've added, and I'm pretty much very psyched about this because it brings it to real life. For example, I can say for my surface dark gray asphalt as my pave one, and I can say save. You also have the option to specify the grading. Do you want the extended grading or not? Of course you do, because you did all of the hard work inside of Civil 3D. So after that, I can say close and refresh. And as soon as I do that, I get the refresh button, and all of a sudden, ta-da, the road has been imported into InfraWorks. Now, if I do go select my road inside of InfraWorks, it brings in the following elements. If I zoom out a little bit, it brings in the actual geometry I've done inside of Civil 3D, as well as the profile design. Like I mentioned, even for the actual sections, the assembly is also brought in. So if I do go to the profile view, just to show you, I'm not lying, that basically it brings in that entire profile design. And yes, you can still do modifications to this. You're not limited to that. It's not locked. You can still do modifications. And this is where the part comes in for the bridge engineers. So if I'm the bridge engineer, I say, well, thank you, Mr. Civil Engineer. Now I need to start designing this. So if I do select my actual road, I can go say add a structure, and I'm going to say add a bridge structure. You can also add a tunnel if you really want to, but I'm interested in the bridge right now. So I'm going to specify the starting position, where you want this bridge to start. So let's say somewhere over here, and I want it to end somewhere over there. Now, depending on what type of template you're using, you can create your own ones. It brings in all of these elements. So remember, ladies and gentlemen, you're not restricted on what type of elements of bridge components. You can modify any of these elements. If you want to create a custom pier, you can do so. So if you do select the bridge itself, you can still do edits to them as well. So if you did make a mistake, changing small little things is very easy. So as soon as I move these things around, you will see they will update automatically. There we go. So if I do want to do a clean adjustment or a small adjustment to this, let's change the number of piers. 11 is overkill. I want 5. So let's change it to 5, and it updates. That's how simple it really is. Now, like I mentioned, you can do a lot of changes for each component. So if I do want to select my component inside of my bridge, I can go select that element. So let's say, for example, I want to swap out one of these piers to my design one, which you previously saw. So I'm going to change this pier to the design one I've done in Inventor. So Inventor works very well with InfraWorks because it allows me to create customized families in Inventor, which is parametric. Yes, parametric, meaning they can change inside of InfraWorks. So you can actually go and create your own custom library for your company. Now, it's very simple. You just select the one you want. So if I do go select one of one I've created in Inventor, and like I mentioned, yes, the new add-on is as well as you can apply to all of them. And the bearings, yes, the small little bearing stuff that holds the beams can also be modified now. Previous versions we could not, but it's now actually accessible to change. So you can still go and manipulate this entire structure. And then after you've done all of your designs, and say, for example, I want to change something now in Civil 3D. So if I jump to Civil 3D and I decide, okay, I'm going to be the very complicated civil engineer, I'm going to make my structural bridge engineer do all of his hard work over again. Haha, he doesn't have to. If I do select and move the alignment, it actually updates. Now I just need to update my corridor first. So if I rebuild automatically, it will rebuild my corridor. And it's very simple. I did that small little change, and you think it will take forever to fix for the poor structural engineer or the bridge engineer. I could have also changed the profile view, the assembly, basically any element inside of Civil 3D, I can move and adjust. So you might think that's a lot of work, but if I go to home and I simply save this drawing, that's how simple it is. As soon as I save it, and I just checking, there we go. It's all good, it's all gold because it's all tomatoes. I just jump back into InfraWorks. I go select that puppy. I'm going to select the re-import. So if I go right click, there's an option to say re-import the DWG. So if I re-import that element, it picks up the newly updated geometry. And you might have noticed my bridge elements did not change, only my alignment and profile. So that saves a lot of time when we're creating these elements. And you can continue updating all of these things. You can actually send the bridge to Revit for your rebar detailing as well. So that's a very nice nifty tool inside of InfraWorks. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is not the end of all of our webinars just yet. So in this week, we've got still a lot of webinars touching upon more information. So I would encourage you guys to jump onto these webinars and have a look at them. I want to specifically point out one specific one. It's called generative design. So there are a new one for the architects and interior designers. But why I'm putting emphasis on checking this out is because I've got some good news for our civil engineers. In the pipeline, I have seen some crazy stuff, and it's coming soon. We're going to actually be able to generate design for our civil projects. So what does that actually basically mean, Mr. Jacques? Well, that's very easy. If I have got 25 different ideas how to do a road design, a platform design, piping design, or any element inside of Civil 3D, I can do generative design before even touching the plan production phase. So that's in the future, and I saw a little bit of a preview of that, and it's quite interesting. So watch out for those updates. We will keep in touch. So still some more good news. I'm not done just not yet. We at Moderna, we have a nice little competition. You can stand a chance to win 1 of 5 coupons to the Moderna online course. So how do you comply to this? Very simple. I just asked to complete the feedback form that you will be sent to after this webinar. And out of those, you can actually get a free coupon to have a look at our Moderna ASE infrastructure videos for free. Or if you want to, you can always go to our information learning.moderna.ase.go.za to have a look at that information. We have also added it to the chat, so you can actually go and follow those links directly. You don't need to remember them anymore. And then finally, we have also got our BIM 360 Design Extended Trial. Now, I know COVID-19 is ruling everybody, but it's getting better. So if you still do need assistance, let us assist you with this BIM 360 design, and just give us a contact or an email, and we will jump right on it. Then finally, my favorite part, I love questions and answers. So does everybody have any questions? You are more than welcome to add it to the chat box. And just to touch upon a few, there are some frequently asked questions that we always discuss. So the main thing I get is, how should my computer systems be in relying to versions? So normally, yes, your Revit, Civil 3D, and InfraWorks needs to be on the same version to have this optimizability, because it uses the same plugins. Then another question I get a lot is the inventor parts. Is it part of the ASE collection? So unfortunately, no, it's not. It's an additional software package you need to purchase, but you can always contact us and we'll give you more information regarding that. Just to re-mention it, for Dynamo does come pre-installed now with Civil 3D, so you don't need to install it, as well as where to get more information. You can either go to www.ac.civil today, or you can actually email salome@morana.ac.today. She'll provide you more information on anything. So if you want even for the structure guys, we can actually associate to the right connections to give you these information. Okay, so you guys can ask me a few questions and we can discuss them. So I am reading for Zanza. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. So he's asking, would you be able to use the ArcGIS function to find out what services are existing on site? Yes, that's exactly what it's there for. So just to give you guys a little bit of ease of hand, one of our clients, the government, actually is using ArcGIS as we speak. So they are picking up existing services. So you don't need to go do inspections. If you've got an ArcGIS account, you can actually type into the government, Tshwane, and Kaleni, just to point it out there. So you can actually grab the information which is online. So they are looking into that as well. So there are some questions. How much is Civil 3D package? Salome will send you a personal email regarding that. Is ArcGIS additional to or included with the AC collection? No, unfortunately, ArcGIS is a system on its own. We don't normally sell those products off yet. So unfortunately, that's why I've added the link so you can have a look at that and be in contact with their resellers and so on and so forth. So guys, we'll just give you 2 more minutes if there's any more questions. Okay, great. It seems like there's no more questions. So guys, from my side, I want to thank you for joining me on this webinar. I hope it was very enlightful, and just be safe out there. And like I said, it's not the end of the world. We're going to level 3, so it's getting better. So hopefully to see you guys soon again, live. So from my side, take care and stay safe. Cheers, guys.